This is Library Nerds with Words, the podcast that gives you the word on all the cool, nerdy happenings at Peter White Public Library and the library universe beyond. From books and concerts to search engines and story times, the library nerds are in and ready to show you that being a nerd can be cool. Get ready, get set, get nerdy. Welcome back to Library Nerds with Words, the podcast where you get the word on all the cool things happening at Peter White Public Library and the library universe beyond, straight from the mouths of the people who know it best, library nerds. I'm Marty Achatz, the adult programming coordinator at Peter White Public Library, and joining me in Nerdtopia today is Jody Trost, library nerd and felting fiber artist superstar. Welcome to the podcast, Jody.
Hello, thank you.
She's already laughing. Okay. Well, you and I go way back. You might say that Jody and I met because we are book nerds. Back in the day, Jody and I both worked at Book World on Washington Street right here in Marquette. So the reason we have been best friends for so long is directly related to our love of books. And now, Jody is one of the crafters for our Craft Magic series here at PWPL. She teaches the felt magic classes every other month, and I have to say that her felting workshops are one of the most popular programs at the library. Everybody loves Jody and wants to work with Jody, and she is an amazing artist and teacher. However, before we get into wool and needles and stabbing Jody, we have to play a little game called Word on the Nerd. I'm going to ask you 3 library nerd questions about yourself, and you have to answer them truthfully for the listeners. Truthfully, Jody.
So, truthfully.
Yes.
I got
it. So, Jody, are you ready to play
Word on the Nerd?
Let's do it.
Do it. Of Would You Rather. I'm going to ask you 3 Would You Rather questions, and you have to truthfully answer them for the listeners. And all of today's questions have something to do with arts and crafts. So,
okay.
Joe, here's your first question. Would you rather create a life-size felted cow by felting, or would you rather create a life-size felted Bigfoot? Which one would you rather do?
Well, that's an easy answer. A life-size Bigfoot.
A life-size Bigfoot? Why would you say Bigfoot as opposed to a cow?
Whoa, I don't really like cows, but because I'm going to make you a life-size Bigfoot before I leave this world.
Okay, all right.
I know.
You know,
that's my goal.
Well, I'm thinking, though making the udders on cows would be pretty interesting, though, wouldn't it?
No.
I don't even want to know what appendage you would put on Bigfoot that would make it inappropriate. So, but
anatomically correct.
Anatomically correct. That would take a whole lot of about 50 pounds more yarn, I think. But let's not get into that.
No.
Yeah, we have to be careful because this is a family-friendly podcast. Which is totally antithetical to everything that Jody and I, when we get together, are. Totally not family friendly. All right. So this is your second question, and the questions may get a little harder from here on out. Okay.
All right.
Here it is. Would you rather have lessons from Bob Ross in oil painting, or would you rather have lessons from Martha Stewart in knitting?
Oh. I'm kind of digging Martha Stewart these days. She's got that whole Snoop Dogg thing going on. But I mean, Bob, we got matching hair. He's kind of chill. I would have to say Bob.
Bob Ross.
Yeah.
Just because he's chill and
he's just so relaxed. And there's a little tree.
Happy little accident,
Happy little thing over here. He's just happy.
See, I think that Martha Stewart, if you made mistakes when she was showing you something, would be very impatient with you.
I would be a little afraid. She's kind of a perfectionist, you know, and she's, you know, a very aggressive human being. So, or at least I see. But no, Bob's just chill.
It's all Bob. Okay.
It's all Bob.
It's all about Bob this time.
It's all
Okay.
about Bob.
All right. So here's your last question, possibly the hardest question.
All right.
Would you rather add an Olympic event for wool felting, or would you rather add an Olympic event for sandcastle sculpting?
Oh, I do like a sandcastle.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of messy. It would have to be needle felting.
Needle felting?
I could stab myself to the gold.
That's what I'm saying, Jody. You could win a gold medal. Can you see yourself standing up on that podium? You know, say,
waving.
Can you see? then when someone hits the high note, you start weeping. You know? And then when you're done, you do like a double somersault half gainer with a twist and like stick the landing. You know.
That sounds like an emergency room visit.
With needles in your hands. That's what it's going to be.
That definitely is an emergency room visit right there.
All right. Well, it is. You heard it, ladies and gentlemen, in 2028, Los Angeles, Jody Trost goes for the gold in wool felting.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. So she is going to set up a GoFundMe account so that she can train. So look, I'll include it in the notes for this episode. Oh my gosh. You know,
we could go forever on that.
It's dangerous getting Jody and I together. It really is. All right.
Okay.
We have this is only the beginning of the podcast, so we got a lot to get through here, Jody. So we have to be careful. All right. So we've come to the end of this arts and crafts edition of Word on the Nerd, this time with Jody Trost, book library felting nerd superstar.
Yeah. Superstar.
So, now we are going to find out what subject has you thinking about flat paths and ghosts and Santas recently. Jody, it is time for you to share
the word.
All right, Jody, what would you like to talk about today?
Oh, wow. Needle felting. I get to talk about needle felting.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Yeah, no, I could talk about needle felting forever. No, I love it. It's been great. I'm really enjoying the workshops. The people who come are just so enthusiastic. They love it. I just did my first teen workshop recently.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Was very successful. I was a little worried about, arming young children with really sharp needles, but they did really great. They stayed in their own space, and their creations were just brilliant.
Did you get any injuries during that workshop?
Not a single injury.
Wow. See, we can't claim that for the adult workshops that we've done.
No, we got some serious bleeders in the adult workshop.
Well, Jody, for people who don't know what needle felting is, can you give like a little overview of what it entails?
So yeah, basically you take really sharp barbed needles and wool, and you just kind of stab the wool to connect the fibers to make a shape and make what you want. I mean, that's really at its simplest form. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it now, for 4 years. And it's just gotten more and more fun. So yeah, you can be really creative.
Now, how did you start? I mean, I've heard this story, but maybe people listening to this might not have heard this story. And it was you like stumbled into it in lockdown during the pandemic, right?
Yeah, even worse than a lockdown in the pandemic. I went on vacation 2 weeks before the world shut down.
and you had an extended vacation.
And I had an extended vacation. I watch the news now. And but no, I ended up in Georgia, locked down with my daughter and her roommates. And yeah, she started needle felting a few months before that and taught me how to do it after, we did the binge watching of Games of Thrones and making a garden and, teaching them how to cook, those kinds of things. And then I've been doing it ever since. I think my total hit, it's been 4 years. Total pieces are over 1,500 pieces I've done in 4 years.
Wow, that's it.
Now,
that's it.
A lot of these are small pieces. They're not like enormous pieces.
Yeah, but they're all fairly beautiful and intricate what you do. So
well, thank you. No, I keep improving my technique. I'm by far not like, an expert in the area now. I mean, there's some that I aspire to be like, but I enjoy it. I've definitely enjoyed the workshops because I've decided to build my own community of needle filters.
You have sort of a group of felters that are just like, I call them the Trosters.
Oh,
because that's what they want. You got to get T-shirts made up. I'm a Troster. You're a Troster. Wouldn't you like to be a Troster too?
I want bumper stickers. I want that stuff to spread.
Be a Troster. You can be, if you cook, you could be a Troster pastry. Something like that.
Oh, that's fun. And you know what? I see those ladies getting behind that idea too. That'd be so funny. I love it. Yeah. So I've started my own little community of needle builders, and now we've got teenagers that are coming up too. So there was a good handful of them that want to continue. So that's been exciting. It's nice being kind of back in a teaching format.
Well, it is, and you have a background in teaching, so you're well versed. You've dealt with all kinds of people when it comes to teaching, and you know how to deal with them well. If you believe it or not, Jody is like what, 5'4", 5'2". So she's tiny, but she dealt with at-risk students, and so I mean she can take you down. I mean, and if you can't tell by her voice, I will let you know. I'll break this news to you that Jody is not a native Uper.
No.
She does come from the fine state of Georgia. So, yes, that's why she was stuck in Georgia for like what? How long were you there? 6 months?
3 months.
3 months. Okay.
Yeah. The day after the South opened up, which really technically didn't really close, I rented a car and I drove home.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I was down there for a while. So and I haven't been back since.
You're like, it was like going to prison in Georgia. You had to escape, right? I've heard stories of those prisons in Georgia. You just don't want to be there.
No, don't want to be there. No,
yeah.
It's too hot.
Well, and now you're like, I mean, you're a huge part. Well, you are a huge part of the art community. You joined the gallery. You've been doing shows and different shows. I mean, you were out back last year, I think.
Yeah, I was out back last year.
Mm-hmm.
I had the show at the library just a few days prior to that, and that was a 2-month exhibit. That was wonderful. Yeah, it's not the same looking at all your stuff in your apartment, but when it's up in a really pretty gallery with great lighting, you're like, I would just sit there for a long time and just cry.
Yeah. I frequently would go down into the gallery and there's Jody would be sitting at a bench and she'd just be weeping. I
didn't want to come down. I really didn't. But I also didn't want it all to come back to my small apartment either.
Well, I mean, okay, so here's a question that I've been meaning to ask you. What piece that you've sold was the hardest for you to say goodbye to, and that you really, maybe you even regret giving it up?
Oh my goodness. I hope Jeff's not listening to this. Don't send it to him.
I won't.
It was honestly the turtle.
Yeah.
It was one of those pieces that I just wanted to try to make because I love turtles. And it just kind of happened. It happened exactly the way I wanted it to. It was just the most perfect little turtle. And I took it to Outback, not really thinking that anybody would like buy my turtle. And when somebody said that they were going to buy my turtle, I went, "You're going to buy my turtle?" you know. But the turtle's local, and if I have the need to, I could always go and visit the turtle. No, it was a good thing, and I don't regret sending it out into the world. I was just kind of surprised, and I do miss it. So,
yeah, but the things that you really I have a hard time letting go of, you price a little high so that people won't buy it, don't you?
I didn't think that anybody would buy it, and no, I don't really think anybody's going to buy any of my stuff, to be honest. I just kind of make it and put it out there, and but it seems like the pieces that I've made that I didn't think anybody would buy, they found their person. The most surprising was my twig woman, and I put it in the gallery thinking, okay, well, it'll come back to my house in a few months because nobody's going to buy the twig woman.
Yeah.
And it was just a fluke. I had dried a banana pepper plant for my bird. And then I went to give it to my bird, and the curmudgeon that he is just knocked it off the cage, and it fell off the cage and flipped upside down, and it looked like legs. And I went, whoa, I could do that. So I made this great woman. It was like 3 feet tall. And she now lives in Sweden. So that's pretty exciting.
Wow. You're an international fiber artist.
Oh, well, thank you. I didn't think of it that way, but yeah. And the woman who purchased it sends me pictures of where the twig woman is now living in her home. And it was quite the ordeal to get that thing to Sweden. She sat in customs for 3 weeks. So off of
She sat in customs
for 3 weeks.
What were they afraid she was smuggling drugs into the country or something?
No, honestly, it was because the postmaster here spelt her name incorrectly.
Oh.
And
okay.
So there was a difference between an A and an E. See, spelling is important.
So, oh my gosh, Sweden. I don't think I ever saw the twig woman. You're going to have to show me a picture.
Oh, I will, definitely. Yeah, it was just kind of a fluke. And it was another one of those pieces that it just worked.
Yeah.
And the lady who purchased it was here working with the paper mill in Escanaba and came into town just to do like a little tour of Marquette, and she fell in love with it. So, and it fits perfect in her home.
Wow.
So, yeah, you never know. I mean, it seems like the things that I make that I think are just going to come back to my apartment and I'm looking to find room for it, are the ones that just like never come back.
Well, and I love the fact that you meet these like really interesting people. You meet this lady from Sweden, but you also like meet famous writers like Karen Dion once when she came into the gallery. And
yeah, I tried so hard not to act like a nerd. And we were having this great conversation, and I'm trying to place her because when you're reading, you don't always see their face.
Yeah.
And then we're chatting it up, and I'm just doing me, running my mouth. And finally, she was talking about what she was doing, and I'm like, "Well, what do you do for a living?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm a writer," and I went, "Oh my God," you know. And I did that really, and I said, "I knew you," and so yeah, I tried to tone it down a little bit, and I finally got myself together. But we had a great time,
Mm.
and I asked her, of course, like 50,000 personal questions about writing and, what she thought of the movie. That was kind of a thing.
You know,
What
she,
is
I
the
mean,
writing now?
well, I've interacted with her myself because I had her for a reading, and she's just a lovely, lovely person, so down to earth, and you would never know, like, she's this best-selling writer who had a movie made from one of her books, starring Daisy Ridley. So now I have to tell you, Jody, that you are one step removed from Harrison Ford. No, two steps removed from Harrison Ford. If you're looking at the direct line between you and Harrison Ford, it goes through Karen Dion to Daisy Ridley to Ford. So you're only three removed there, from the actual. That's pretty cool.
No, it was a wonderful experience. I, of course, immediately, once she left the gallery, started messaging everybody. Oh my goodness. Guess what happened? Finally, something fun happened to me. Yeah, it was awesome.
Well, and here it is. It's all through this crazy hobby that you started at the beginning of the pandemic because you were in prison in
Yeah,
Georgia.
pretty much.
3 months.
Pretty much. I know.
Now,
Yeah.
now, did you ever think that this hobby would like blossom into basically it's a career for you now? I mean, you really work at selling stuff and creating stuff.
No, no,
No?
no. I started making like Christmas presents, birthday presents, baby presents. I just thought that's what it was going to be. And then after like a year and a half, I thought, wow, I've given out so many things. People are probably just sick of my stuff. But then, I stayed pretty isolated. So I just felt it. It kept me busy. Um, it was a downtime kind of thing. And, the doctor said I needed to find something to do and, to give me some downtime.
Yeah.
Well, I found it and it's gone a little crazy, but no, it's been wonderful. And no, did I ever think it would be where I've got stuff in a local gallery? No, no,
Yeah.
never thought I'd have a show. No, never thought of anything like that.
Do
So,
you still have a hard time calling yourself an artist?
yeah, I do. I do. I can't wrap my head around it. Um, but I used to always have a hard time calling myself a writer. And it's just, I don't know, now it's just become something that I do. Kind of like, when I was writing. Because like,
Well,
you get up.
I mean, honestly, if I meet someone and I'm talking about you, I was like, Jody Trost. And they go, I don't know. And then I say she does felting, she's a felt artist. People know you because you're a felt artist.
Funny is I was in the grocery store. It was last year sometime. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever experienced. And these two ladies walked up to me and they were excuse me. And, I was like, oh yeah, do you need some help? Me, I'm going to help. I thought maybe they needed something off the top shelf that I could actually reach.
You're 5'2".
Yeah. And they're like, aren't you that lady that does all that those little needle felted things? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, we just wanted to talk to you because we can't get into your workshops.
Oh, well, so, that's a whole other subject.
It is. And so I pulled out their phones and showed them how to like get into the workshops. If they remembered that, I'm not really sure. They weren't very computer savvy, unfortunately, but I just keep telling people to keep trying.
Yeah.
And get in there.
Well, the day that this episode is going to drop is the day of your next felting workshop.
Oh, so, I'm excited.
Yeah, and this is the Flat Cat Workshop. It's a bookmark. Do you want to describe what the project is?
So, everybody likes to, I love bookmarks. So I'm really into bookmarks, and I'm always looking at new things that uh, I can do for bookmarks. And I met this lady online. I do a lot of online talking with people. There's a huge community of needle felters online. And I've reached out quite frequently. And so I was talking to this woman about some of the bookmarks that she makes. And she does splat animals, but I'm totally into the splat cat.
Mm.
And so she sent me a tutorial on how to make these splat cats. So this is what we're doing in the next. And so it's basically a oversized paper clip, and we're gonna needle felt the cat's bottom side. And so he looks like he's been smashed in a book, which I think is hilarious. So, so when you close your book to save your space, you're closing it with your smashed kitty. So I love it.
I think this is brilliant. I think this is a new line for you.
I
You could
love it.
do like splat frogs.
I know. That's
Flat
been my
frogs, flat Bigfoots. Can you see a little Bigfoot butt with the feet and everything?
totally.
I mean,
Now that you mentioned it, I can.
I mean, you could do anything like that. I mean,
Anything.
yeah. So,
Absolutely anything.
and and Jody does say, Jody did mention it's hard getting into her workshops because they are very, very popular, and they fill up. I'm not kidding here. They fill up usually within an hour or so after the registration opens.
I still find
So
that bizarre.
yeah, it's you are I honestly, Jody, I tell people you are one of the most popular programs that I do
Well,
at the library.
I absolutely love doing the workshops. It's fun spending time, and I've seen well, we've had so many like regulars that come into the workshops and how they've improved. And yeah, no, I absolutely love it. And I mean, they're doing needle felting on their own at home,
Yeah.
and doing things that I won't even touch, like landscape felting. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's just been a lot of fun to share ideas and share things, and they're always into like learning something new. And
Well,
so
it's amazing to me because these are beginner workshops, but some
yeah,
of the ladies that have been coming frequently to your workshops, they're no longer beginners.
no, they are not.
But so we have toyed with the idea of having like intermediate workshops and things like that, to try to open up the door for more people to be able to get into the workshops. But my biggest suggestion, if you want to get in, take one of these felting workshops from Jody at the library, is this: always watch the events page at the beginning of every month. Jody's next workshop after this one in August will be in October, and it's always unless the library is closed or something interferes with schedules and otherwise, it's always the first Monday in October that we do these workshops. I would not, I mean, the first Monday of the month. So I alternate between Punch Needle Magic, which is Punch Needle, which Jody did, and I think she liked it.
I did. I found it challenging, very challenging, but I loved it.
Yeah, and there's a common theme, and that is sticking needles into things in our crafting, because that's what Punch Needle is sort of about, and that's what felting is about. But so if you want to take Jody's next workshop, here's my suggestion. Starting at the beginning of September, haunt that events page until you see needle felting felt magic, and it says registration open. Then immediately, don't wait. Don't say, "Oh, I'll have to do that when I get home." Okay, find a hotspot and immediately register for that class, because once we hit 10, that's the limit, and then you go on waiting list. Now sometimes people will come up with conflicts where they can't do it, and then people get bumped up into the actual class. So if you can't register for the official class, get yourself on that waiting list, because chances are that if you're the top 1 or 2 or 3 people on that waiting list, you might be able to get into the class. We've also had people, and this is not a recommended tactic, but we've also had people that simply show up the night of the class. And sometimes there have been like a person or 2 people that don't show up for whatever reason. And we've got extra kits that are available. And so those people have been able to participate in the workshop via that. I don't recommend that because there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. But if you are so desperate, and want to do this, that's another way of doing it. And the reason that we limit the number of people for these workshops, it's simply because it costs some money to get these kits. And so, we limit the size of the class to 10 because that's how much we can afford to buy 10 full kits. Now, when you get these kits, they have everything that you will need. They have the pad that you would do the stabbing on. They have the needles, and they have the wool. So, and you get extra wool, so you can do more than just one particular project with that wool. So it's a really good deal, no charge. This is all paid for. This is already paid for by people who support the library and your taxes and millages and stuff like that. That's why we love that, because we have a community that's so supportive and allows us to do stuff like this. Okay, I'm stepping down off my soapbox now, Jody. So, but yeah, that's the way. If you have been struggling to get into this felt class, if for a year you have been unsuccessful, here's the other thing. If you have missed every felting class for the past year because you haven't been able to get into it, I would say send me an email, and I will. And I'm probably opening myself up really dangerously to something here. Send me an email. The first 3 people that send me emails, I will guarantee that I will get you into that class on the next time. Okay, but I'm going to limit that to 3, because I know that I could get 25 emails, and then I'm going to be starting to get nasty emails saying, why didn't I get in this class? So that's another way I will open up to you. Send me an email, and prior to the class, and early prior to the class, because if I don't get an email that first day that the class opens, it's going to be full by the end of the day, and then I can't bump you into the class. So, I guess it's a little bit of knowing how to go about doing this. The best way to do it is just haunt the events page until you see it open up. Because Jody is so popular. She's always been the most popular girl in school.
Oh yeah.
She's just, I think she once dated Matthew McConaughey, for God's sake. So,
No.
Is Matthew not your person?
Oh no, he's too pretty.
You like someone with a little bit of an edge. That's why you and I have been friends for so long.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. That's the word from Jody Trost of Felt Magic here at the library. Jody's next felting class will take place at the beginning of October. Registration for that class will be open the beginning of September, so keep your eyes peeled. And you go to www.pwpl.info, go to the events page, click on the link for the class, and that will take you to the registration. And I say, don't hesitate when you see that open. If there's registration, if you really want to do it, sign up. And the other thing is that if you do get into the class and you suddenly find that you cannot make it to the class, I just request that you go in and cancel your registrations, because that will open it up to other people who want to get to the class. And I will say that the class does fill up sometimes within minutes after that registration opens. But putting that aside, before I let you leave Mona, which is the Museum of Nerd Art, Get it, Mona? Anyway. I need to find out what you have been reading recently, Jody. Something that you think listeners should run to the library and pick up.
Off the shelf.
All right, Jody, let's hear it. What have you been reading that's good?
I have been reading Trigger Warning by Neil Gaiman. It's like it's short fictions and disturbances is how he phrases it. I love it. I'm loving it. I mean, he's one of my favorite authors, so I mean, I'm a little prejudiced, but I like his short. I love his short works, and it's dark, and it's dark. But I like the setup of the book too. He kind of does an introduction and gives you like a little background story of each little story or poem that's in the book, and that's fascinating to me because you normally don't get that unless you're like at some presentation from an author. So to add that into a book, I thought was great. I'm also reading Stephen King's Bazaar of Bad Dreams, which again is short stories. And I've always loved Stephen King, and I love his short stories and novellas. I love all of his stuff. And his newer writing has been surprisingly wonderful because for a while there, I kind of got away from him because I don't know. I wasn't too crazy about, well, I can't say that.
Well, no, honestly, I mean, Stephen King, he's been publishing for so long.
Right.
So, but his newer stuff has been so, I guess, a little bit more complex than the other stuff and a little bit more, I don't know, richer in some way, shape, or form than
No,
some of his other stuff.
For the longest time, I just felt like he wasn't there. I mean, it was like, the characters are good. The storyline was good. I don't know. But his just heavy description of like in his older work and his character development and just, I didn't see it for a long time. And all of a sudden, these last two books that I've tapped into, Fairy Tale was just amazing.
I love that book. Yeah.
And I actually have that in my house now. And I'll just go back to it, it's just wow. So I was pleasantly pleased to start kind of reading Stephen King again.
Okay. So you got Trigger Warning by Neil Gaiman, and then Bazaar of Bad Dreams. Is that what you said? By Stephen King. Okay. So
that one's a little bit older. It did come out in like 2007 or 8. But again, I stopped reading him for such a long time. So again, I was very happy to see it. But no, those are the two I have going right now. Kind of like my needle felting. I've always got like 2 books going and 4 needle felting projects going at the same time.
Surprisingly, they're both short fiction. So that you're talking about. So
yeah, I'd never seen Trigger Warning, and I just kind of picked it up on a whim. And well, actually, that's not true. I peruse bookstores and thrift stores, and I'll go through every single book to find a Neil Gaiman book, and then I'll look for whatever else that might be there. Yeah. But to add to my collection of books, I have a whole shelf dedicated just to him. So, and I love like the TV adaptions that they're doing now too.
Yeah.
I've been really excited about those, and they capture everything.
Well, my favorite Neil Gaiman book of all time is The Graveyard Book. I love that book. Have you ever read it?
No, it's one that I haven't read.
Oh my God, Jody, you need to get that book and read it. It's called The Graveyard Book. It's billed as young adult, but I mean it was huge. And it's not. I read it and I absolutely love that book. I won't describe. It's about a young boy who's orphaned in very mysterious circumstances at the beginning of the book, and ends up living in a cemetery raised by the ghosts of the cemetery.
Okay. I'm sold.
and yeah, it's so good. And then you find out why his parents were killed and everything like that. And so it turns into this kind of intrigue, mystery, fantasy, boy raised by ghosts thing. So
I'll definitely have to check that out.
yeah, it's really, really good. All right, so there you go. Those are Jody's recommendations of books that you should pick up.
Off the shelf.
And believe it or not, Jody and everyone else, we have come to the end of this crafty episode of Library Nerds with Words. I want to thank Jody Trost, popular teacher of PWPL's Felt Magic program, nerd extraordinaire, for taking time away from stabbing things to stop by the Nerd Zone today. It has been a blast, as always, Jody, talking with you.
Always.
Next week, I know that our guest is going to be nerd superstar Lynette Suko, assistant head of adult services. I know I've been promising her for a couple of weeks. Her schedule has not worked out, but this coming week it will work out. So our next Lynette will be on our next episode. But until that time, everybody, stay nerdy.
Thank you for listening to Library Nerds with Words, Peter White Public Library's weekly podcast, giving you the word on what's cool at the library. The theme for the podcast is Happy Clappy by John Bartman, used courtesy of Pixabay. This episode was written and produced by Martin Acketts and sponsored by Peter White Public Library. Until next week, pick up a good book, listen to some good music, watch a good movie, attend a great event, and remember, library nerds are the coolest people around.